Hello, I'm Navaz from Word of Grace Church, Pune, India, and I'm part of the Regions Beyond Worship Task Team. We are making few short modules on different aspects of worship, and I'm doing a few. This one is on preparation as a worship leader or worship musician. And I'm going to give you a few P's. The first one is obvious, is practice. We need to practice to develop our skill and develop it well. I remember when I was first learning the violin and the flute, I spent hours practicing. 2 hours a day was a normal. I practiced the scales, the arpeggios, the finger exercises, the breath control, and different kinds of techniques. I learned to read music. I would practice difficult classical pieces so that I would get very agile and adept with my instrument. And we need to do this with no matter what instrument we play. I remember when I first learned the guitar at the age of 11, and I would sit across a lady who used to play the guitar in church, and I changed chords when she changed chords, and that is how I learned to be part of the worship band. And then I would go home and practice, So therefore, worship leading involves a combination of skills, which is preparation, practicing, leading abilities, relational skills, how do you get along with people in the band, understanding, listening to the voice of the Holy Spirit, being Spirit-led, being learning to submit to your leaders, and so much more. The other P is prayer. Is prayer part of our natural rhythms of life? Do we prayerfully come to our rehearsals? Do we prayerfully come to the worship on Sunday morning, asking God to anoint the work of our hands? I've said this in the previous modules, but I can't over-repeat it, and that is private before public. I like this quote by a famous preacher, John Wesley, and he says, "Every morning I set myself on fire for Jesus, then I go out and people watch me burn." Picking songs for a set list. This is a more difficult task than you realize. There are so many parameters to keep in mind, which will be discussed in another session. But prayerfully consider, God, what would you want me to focus on today? What do your people need to hear about you today? Do they need to hear about your holiness? Do they need to hear about your might? Do they need to hear about your tenderness? Do they need to know about your grace? And whatever set list you prepare, I always say that the set list at the end of the day must be Christ-centered, with the finished work of the cross part of it. Sometimes a visitor might only pay attention to the worship. Would they hear the gospel in the songs that you select? As someone said, worship is songs that is take-home theology. How wonderful. Is our worship, another P, a proclamation? We don't just sing songs, we got to lead them, proclaim them, sing it with all our hearts. Sing it not like you mean it, because you mean it. And as musicians, we need to reflect on the words of the songs and the dynamics of the worship, the dynamics of the music needs to reflect what we are singing. So you can't sing, "There in the ground his body lay, light of the darkness, light of the world by darkness laid." You won't go crashing on the cymbals there. There would be a hush and a lull in the music. But then when you sing, then bursting forth through glorious day, that's when everything revs up. Why? Not because we want to create an effect, but because the dynamics reflects the passion and the truth of what is being sung. So be alert also to what the Holy Spirit is doing. Worship is like, the ebb and flow of a tide. We need to pay attention to what God is doing. And the last P is pause. As a worship leader or musician, we need to learn to take a step back to recharge our batteries. And Jesus learned this art of withdrawing, where so often when crowds were pressing in upon him, it says he withdrew to a lonely place. We all need this, or we will start leading in the flesh. We need to be leading from his presence to his presence, and that needs for us to have times of pause in our life where we just be still and know that he is God. So let's make sure that we practice, we are prayerful, we take the time to prepare a good set list, we live out of our private life into the public. Our worship is a proclamation and not just a performance, and we know how to pause.